Hey friends, I'm Jamie Maddox, your wealth embodiment mentor. I teach how you are uniquely designed to attract wealth. In this podcast, I talk about body mapping and money. Body mapping is a unique map on your body that gives information, instructions, and direction for you specifically. Each episode, I highlight one area of the body, discuss its features, and more importantly, what that means for you and your money. So welcome. I'm excited to be on this journey together and can't wait to see what your body can teach you about money. Welcome back. I am so excited for this week because we are talking about ankles. Now, I have to say, whenever I talk about people's ankles, I kind of think of like back in the 1800s and women wore dresses and they had to cover their ankles and it was like all scandalous to even show someone your ankles. And I always think of this for a couple of things because it's just funny. And number two, because of what the ankles represent, I'm like, how fascinating that women were told to cover their ankles because it actually does give a lot of information. Okay, so there you go. You can think of the 1800s and women in dresses whenever you see ankles also. Because the best part is if I'm live with a person, having like a one-on-one or in a group, I'm always like, can I see your ankles? And it always just sounds really funny. And I'm like, no, it really is so powerful. Okay, so with that lead in, part of the reason I love ankles so much is because my first experience with learning about my ankles, okay? So I'm going to give you the information and then I want to share my story and why it was such a powerful thing for me. So when we're looking at ankles, we're specifically looking at the ankle bones. So the outer ankle bone and the inner ankle bone. Now, some of you are like, there's an inner bone, there's an outer bone. Really? I had no idea. Yes. And that is information too, okay? Because the inside of our ankles, the bony part, okay, the inside is our desires. So the more bony the inside of your ankle is, or the more prominent the bone is, the more clearly you know and understand your desires, okay? On the outside of your ankle, with that ankle bone, the more prominent and the more it sticks out, then the more quickly you'll get the direction for your desires. So with that baseline, let me give you a little bit more information. And I want to remind you that the right side of your body is the future and or masculine. The left side is the past and or feminine. So that will also correlate to our ankles. So if you look at your ankles and you're like, well, my left side is really prominent, both inside and outside, but my right ankle, neither of them are prominent, then again, that's going to be information, okay? And that's where having like a one-on-one with me is super important, like really valuable because I can look at it and not just give you the general, but also really tune into you specifically. Because when I say, well, it's the future and or masculine on your right side, you're like, well, which one is it? And that's where when I tune in, I can get clarity and also direction to be like, okay, well, this time with this aspect of your body, it's feeling like it's the future. Oh, now it's feeling like the masculine, So that's one really beautiful thing is that we can go a lot deeper and very specific to you when you have a body mapping session with me. So with our ankles, some people are just naturally have a muscle that attaches low on the bone of your ankle. And so it creates kind of that cankle look where there's not really a defined ankle. And with that, they have a lot of strength and ability to choose their direction and then follow their desire. So it's kind of cool because you get a little bit of choice in there, okay? If you're just like, nope, my ankles are just hidden, I've just got some extra padding there, that's okay too, because that just shows that either you're hiding your desire and your direction, um, or maybe not feeling like it's safe to reveal your desire or your direction in your life. So, again, this is where it is information, and then you get to choose how to apply it. Okay, so a few years ago, I went to my first retreat with Laurel Houston, the creator of body mapping, and it was specifically, we each got an hour in front of the group where she would body map us for that hour. And I was so excited. Like, I was like, I have been dreaming of this forever, and it's finally happening, and this is amazing, and then it gets to be your turn, and you're like, oh shit, what did I do? What did I sign up for? Do I really want to do this? Like, what's going to come up? Okay. And obviously it was a very safe, safe group. And she's very good at holding safe space. So it was really great. With that being said, yeah, there was stuff that came up, right? But I distinctly remember her pointing out my ankles because the inside, so mine are the same on my right and my left leg. But the inside isn't very defined. Okay. So, I mean, you can see a little bump for my ankle bone, but it's not super defined. But my outside ankle bones are so prominent. Okay. So what that means is that I sometimes really struggle to figure out what I desire, what I actually want. But man, when I figure it out, boom, I get it pretty quick. And when she said it, it was like, that explains my whole life. Because I'm like, yeah, once I figure it out, it's like, okay, here it is. And I'm like, oh, well, why was that so hard? And what I realized is that it wasn't that it was necessarily hard to bring it to me or to get it. It was really figuring out what I actually wanted, what my true desire really was, because it wasn't going to come to me until I actually knew what I wanted. And honestly, it's a little bit of like a safety measure, a little protection, because for me, at least, I'm like, man, I don't know, maybe it wouldn't be a bad thing. I'm just like, but it could get to be a lot if I always knew what I wanted and I always got it quickly. I'm like, actually, that kind of does sound nice. So maybe I could work on that. Because remember, our bodies can shift and change. They are always shifting and changing, right? But the point is not to try to change our body at all. But it's really this acceptance and awareness. And especially for me, just being like, oh, okay. So when I feel like I'm not getting what I'm wanting or not feeling like I have this direction or things just aren't, going the right way, for me, that is a huge clue to really check in and tune in with myself and be like, am I actually really knowing what I want? Am I really clear on this? Or do I need to kind of dig a little deeper and figure some things out? Okay. So what if it was opposite? What if your inside ankle bones are really prominent and your outer ankle bones are hardly even there? So what that can look like is that you're like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what I want. And how do I go about getting it? What's my direction? Where is this thing? Okay. So it's kind of like the flip of what I was just explaining for my ankles, because this is you being really pretty clear about like, oh yeah, I know exactly what I want, but sometimes it might just take a little bit longer for it to come to you. So in the world of, personal development and manifestation and all that stuff, this is actually kind of really vital information, right? Because if you're sitting there being like, I am doing all the things, I am following all the laws, I'm doing blah, blah, blah. And you're like, but it's not coming. Wouldn't it be so good to know if you're like, okay, my inner ankle bones are defined. I do know what I want, but it might just take a second longer for it to come to me or to find the direction of how to bring it to me because your outer ankle bones aren't as defined. Okay, is this making sense? So kind of going back to my, my 1800s cover your ankles thing with the dresses, right? Okay, isn't this fascinating that it shows the women's, it shows everybody, but women were the ones that had to cover their ankles, right? But they were covering their desires and their direction that they wanted to go. Like wild, right? I mean, the fact that it was being forcefully hidden, and I will not go on too much of a rant, but how many women didn't feel like they could share their desires, that they couldn't share their true direction, and maybe felt held back by that. And not every woman, but it's interesting that it was almost like a sensual turn on, to show a man your ankles, right? Or like if you wanted to see him, it was like, it felt very intimate, right? Back in that time. And I'm like, well, yeah, it would feel intimate because you were sharing this direction and this desire of you, even if they didn't know that's what they were sharing by showing their ankles, right? But our ankles are really powerful. So probably about a year ago, I shared this with one of my clients. And, of course, I was like, hey, show me your ankles. Let's take a look, okay? I believe that hers are both prominent inside and outside because she really just embraced this whole, like, I want it, I got it. Like, I want it, I got it. Because she was just like, oh yeah, I know what I want and I get it fast, right? Because of her ankles. And so I just remember her messaging me multiple times, just being like, I just was like, yeah, I want this and I got it. No, literally, I just like had this thought of what I want and I got it. And I was so excited whenever she would share this with me because for her to be able to like have that recognition with her ankles and build that relationship, it actually helped to bring the things that she was really desiring very quickly into her life. Everything from, small, seemingly quote unquote, unimportant things to pretty big, larger things that she had been wanting for a while. So let me know about your ankles. I obviously can't see your ankles in person right now, but in the comments, I would love to hear, like, do you have prominent inner bones or outer bones? Or does this resonate? Are you like, oh my goodness, that makes sense. That explains all these different things. Or, oh, I've had this experience. I would just really want to hear your feedback on it. And I hope that you fall in love with your ankles, regardless of what they look like or how prominent or not prominent they are. I invite you to just thank them for helping you at whatever level they are capable of right now, of helping you find your desires and find your direction. Because when we can really tap into our desires and we can find that direction, that is when our soul is satisfied. And, I'm going to just go out on a limb here and say most of us would absolutely love more money, right? Like if someone just hands you money, you're probably going to be pretty excited about it, okay? So see how this relates to you with your money and with wealth and with finances. Do you know what you actually want? Like what is it that you're seeking by wanting more money? And then what's the direction? Is it something that might take a minute to find clarity on? Or will that direction just be pretty well known once you get really clear on your desires? So play around with this. Let me know how it goes. And I hope you have the most beautiful week. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Make sure to check back each week for the newest content about your body and your wealth. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends and give it a 5-star review. Make sure to visit healinghopewithjamie.com for new offers, retreats, and ways to embody your wealthy life.